It's Rotten Mornings. The best way to start your morning off rotten. Welcome to Season 3.
Yeah, goddammit.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Rotten Mornings. I'm joined here today with
A bird.
a bird. I've got Matt here, and Brandy, and
Yes.
Graham, and I'm
I'm
Scott.
gonna respond to everything in whistles.
Tweety bird.
So, if you're wondering what that wacky whistling is, it's an idiot. And if you guessed that, let us know in the comments below, and
That don't exist.
we'll send you out a prize package of
Nothing.
Of whistling.
of whistling. We'll whistle any tune as long as it's that one. Today we are reviewing a film called Della Morte dell'Amore, released in America as Cemetery Man.
Back in 1994.
Yeah, 1994.
And De La Morte de l'Amore, as a title, it makes a completely different movie than Cemetery Man.
It does. And you know,
Because De La Morte de l'Amore means of the death of love.
of Death of Love, that's right. And we have seen this film and known of this film pretty much since it came out, and we've always said Della Morte dell'Amore, and it wasn't until this viewing that I heard him pronounce it Della Morte dell'Amore.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, we've been wrong for 2 decades.
You found that surprising?
Well, he doesn't even pronounce it De La Morte de l'Amore because he only says De La More. De La Morte is never said in the movie. His name's like Andrew or some shit like that.
His name is Francisco Della
Francisco.
Morte.
Yeah.
He says
And then he says his dad wanted to name him Andrew or some shit
Yeah,
like that.
Andrew Della
he
Morte.
said, I thought he said he wanted to change his name to Andrew.
Yeah.
Because it'd be more pleasant.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he says Della Morte and he
Andrew
says Della
of the
More.
Death.
Say Andrew of the Death. Or Christopher? I don't remember. Cool, so initial thoughts, guys?
Well, I've seen this movie a butt ton of times, and it falls under the heading of all of those other, like, kind of pop culture, underground, movies. And you see a lot of, like, similarities between it and, like, Dead Alive
Yes,
and
Reanimator.
and there's just so many different references. And then you can see the references after the fact where people used very similar characters, like Hot Fuzz using the Nagi character as one of the characters in Hot Fuzz, sort of. And even making the, like, fourth wall breaking yarp joke, because he always says
yarp.
narp, and like Nagi says nya. So that, it's good. That's my initial idea. My also initial idea is the fact that this is the largest nipple I've ever seen ever in my life. And
Really big
I've seen
nipples.
lots of
Yeah.
nipples.
Well, different people are different shapes and different sizes. And
Scott
we
has
don't
a big nipple
criticize
too.
Just
Hey.
one, though.
Yes, in the middle of his forehead. It
First
stands out pretty heavy.
impressions, I did enjoy it. I thought it was a fun watch. I still had issues with some glaring inconsistencies and the lack of making sense. But it was a fun watch. I enjoyed it.
I was confused. Did he say that the dead rose 7 days after they died, and then all of a sudden it was like quicker and earlier?
Yeah, it was like after he said that,
In the
suddenly
beginning.
they're rising like instantly.
So,
Yeah.
so what he says is, sometimes after 7 days, some of them rise. So I think he's kind of giving a generalization. But you're right, though. It does break because latter zombies that rise have different functionality. One can talk, one can drive a motorcycle.
Well, the fact that as the movie progresses, it gets less and less about that in the first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Till the fact that
And it
you
gets
see
more
it
and
at
more
one
cheesy
point where there's
and
just
fantastical.
tons of dead people coming
Right.
alive, and he's just sitting in the chair like, I don't even give a shit. It's almost as if the movie was like, hey, that was important, earlier.
Sure.
But let's
But
all
it's not
just
anymore.
like realize that
Now
that
it's
doesn't
different.
matter. So let's just go past that. That's not has anything to do with anything. And that's why I think this movie was a collection of comic books that were all put together in the wrong order.
And almost like they were all written by different authors.
So, guys, if you're listening to this review and you have not seen the movie, we are going to spoil the crap
Yes.
out of it. We probably
We
should have
spoil
said that
all-
earlier.
Yes, spoiler alert if you don't know.
So, just kind of a brief synopsis of this film. Francisco de la Morte is a caretaker of a cemetery where when people buried, 7 days later, some of them come back. Sometimes it's 7 days. And he has
calls
an
them
assistant.
returners.
That's right, returners. He has an assistant, Nagi, who doesn't speak very much. And they live at the cemetery. And the film is pretty much about him trying to keep up with the cemetery and keep up with his sanity.
So I would say that movie is more about like trying to beat loneliness without like pretending like you aren't trying to beat loneliness.
So I totally agree with that, and that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up. This was a very different watch for me. I have seen this film countless times. This is one of my very favorite films. This is the film that I picked for us to choose to go over. And this watch through in this day and age was a different film.
Agree.
On a very superficial level, this was on a superficial level only. At best, this was a very romantic fantasy film wherein the guy's like, oh, will I ever see her again, and gets to see her again, and it's a different form, but it's love at first sight. It's those kind of things that are the I hate to say it, well, I'll say it for a second, but like this is a male fantasy, that kind of thing, and perpetuates into that, which was very common of the media of the time.
Except for like his fucking fantasies are nihilism. Like his fantasies literally by his own stupidity fail him over and over again. You have the fact that he kills the first girl himself,
Right.
because he's an idiot. You have the fact that the second girl he like makes himself impotent to be with because he's an idiot. And then the third girl.
Was it him trying to actually go get his dick cut off?
Yes, he was trying to get his dick cut
Okay.
off, and the doctor was like, I can't do it. This will
just
wear
to
off in a
please
month.
her.
Yeah. And then his third girlfriend, which was the worst one, like, he didn't even know if she was a prostitute. He just fucking set her ass on fire. Now, her roommate said, did she say to pay me? But that could just be a bitch-ass roommate.
Yeah,
that could be
exactly.
like a girl that lives with another girl that's in love with her that wants to push all the guys out of her life. So she could have just been throwing that out there to be a dick.
So you're saying
Or
the
just
last
jealous
girl
of
could
the
have been
attention.
the perfect match?
Yes, and he just
the movie
fucking
ended-
ruined it.
Wow, that is big. That is a big
Because
thing.
there's
he
no
was-
at no point does she reference herself being a prostitute.
Right.
But she does do prostitute-like things.
True.
But that doesn't make any fucking difference. The whole thing is like he forms an opinion of each one of these girls like, bam, this is my opinion of them and this is who they are, right?
Right.
Horrible idea. Horrible thing to do.
Shouldn't do that.
Especially when you consider like he is like, I will
Did
give
not
up
know
on
them at
everything that I am just for this perception of this person. And then it takes one little thing. Just one little thing. And then he's like, oh, I gotta kill her. Oh, I've gotta fucking burn her to death. Oh, I gotta fucking
Right?
Chop my winky
yeah,
off.
chop my
Well,
penis
okay.
off. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. What the fuck?
But like the whole thing is very fantastical, and none of it really seems like that's the only way it could make sense is if none of it was real and it was all in his head because of the glaring inconsistencies. Like the fact that you've got this wound in his shoulder, and then there's not a wound in his shoulder,
And then there is
a wound
and
in
then
his
there's not a
shoulder.
wound. And I
like
looked
it
at
goes
that
back
and
and forth, and
I
there's
really
no
wanted that
explanation.
wound to be the director's way of showing when it was reality or when it was fiction because I noticed it was gone.
But if
the
that's
problem
the
was
case-
is if it was a big deal, then he would have had some sort of reference when he had his clothes on. Because you never know when he has the bandage on when his clothes are on. But literally right after he got the bandage was when it shows the very next scene and he doesn't have the bandage. And he's completely healed up.
Yeah, totally agree with that. That there are these little things like what's going on, like what's he trying to say here, guys? If you haven't seen this film, and you should not be listening to this podcast.
Well, and remember this about
Whether
any
you have or
of
haven't.
the podcasts that we do or anything that we say, like we are going to rip everything apart.
Oh, well,
we
yeah,
are rip apart
true.
people, and I'll always look at movies and try to find like the other meaning, like
Sure.
beyond what just the pictures on the screen were. But I think in this, like, I couldn't find it, man. Like, I could not. I know that it's imagery based on romance and based on kind of like how Unchin
toxic
Angelou
romance.
was about a romance in a nightmare way.
Sure. We are currently fighting Urza. Who, and if you are hearing Urza laughing into, oh my god, we summoned it.
Okay, let's go to a break. Let's go to a commercial.
Okay, oh, well, hey guys, we're taking a break.
Come on down to Hellbilly Hollow. We got all things that are good and bad.
Bring your wife, your kids, your cousins, your brothers, your sisters, and your other incestuous family members. Have a good old time.
The whole goddamn family.
Yes, please don't forget your cousins now. Those are
Aw,
our favorites.
The cousins are the best part.
We do family discounts and reach arounds for all.
And we have a poo drop in just for you.
You come on in, get your ice cold glass of that lemonade. It goes down mighty fine.
That's right. Visit Hellbilly Hollow on Facebook or hellbillyhollow.net.
You get on that there interweb and you type in Hellbilly Holler, it'll take you right on where you need to be.
And say hey to our best friend, Timmy Tim.
So come see us. We'll be waiting for you.
Be mighty glad to have you.
All right, guys, and we're back. Man, we're very, very thankful for all of our sponsors.
Yes, we've decided to add some lawn cutting noise in the far background to give you guys a little ambience.
Yeah, that was what was missing.
It was.
Ambience and lawn cutting.
Ambience.
So we are...
Instead of Urza aliens.
So where were we at? What were you just saying about...
So you were saying that you hadn't seen a kind of an overlying thing or like hadn't got
Yes,
Michelle Sar's...
I didn't see the imagery that would tie it together, like with Heredity. We just got through
Sure.
watching a heavy imagery-laden film, but it wasn't important to figure out who the main POV was. It wasn't important to like figure out what time it was, or because directors will use filters or certain attributes of the character to like say we're in a different place. But the problem is that because of all the freaking inconsistencies, it was hard to tell if that was meant to be there or if they were just like, dude, let's just not do the Band-Aid this time.
So I'd like to talk about this interesting theory I had read. Because I had never seen the film in this perspective. Again, it's just someone's perspective. It's just an opinion. But they had put this out. They had said that this film is not about Francisco.
Okay.
Or Francesco. This film is about Franco, who is his friend.
His friend.
Because there's several references that Francisco says to Franco, like, "Oh, hey, your wife and family. Your wife and kid. You have a wife and kid, right? You're real, aren't you?" Like he keeps making this reference. You never see that character interact with any other character. You never see him anyway. What?
Yes and no. I have because I thought that too. I was like, okay, now let's think about what Francisco says. He doesn't know him. Francisco does this but both mayors and the detective reference Francisco.
Or Franco.
Franco.
Uh-huh.
Because the mayor says, "Oh, Franco said you wanted to talk to me. Funny that we meet here in the cafe."
Right.
The new mayor says, "Hey, Franco filed the whatever the file, you need to redact it." And the detective talks about, well, what about your friend Franco? Do you
Yeah.
think he knows anything?
So, toward the end of the
Sorry,
film,
like I'm revving my engine for this podcast. Get the podcast on, baby. Yeah, podcast. Okay, let's move past it.
okay, you know, I love that you can make that sound effect
do.
with your ears, but
I flap them really hard.
let's
Very talented here.
let's do less of those.
Okay.
So what was put out is in the scene where Franco's in the hospital. Franco has just killed his wife and daughter, and they say that the whole film is Franco in this coma, and he creates Francisco and Nagi as a dark and a light, because Nagi's excited when the sun's out. Francisco's like, oh, it's a horrible
weather's went
day.
bad again.
The weather's
Yeah.
turned.
The weather's turned bad, and it's like a sunny, beautiful
Yeah.
day. So, like, you have these light and dark characters, and then with Francisco, his dealing with the dead and dealing with she, who's never named, is him trying to make his brain compartmentalize what death really is, what love really is, and the reason that Franco is always shown in this room full of files is he's filing things in his
No,
head.
that's his brain, and that's him communicating with
Yeah.
his outer presence, which is Francis.
Well, if that is the case, it is not explained very well.
But
No, I didn't get that.
even if
No, I didn't either. It was just
I
like I
think
said. It was
that's
just
a good theory,
But that is
a
good
it
theory.
breaks down immediately when there is a reference to him outside of that character
and the fact
by
that
other characters.
and the fact that he is in the movie the least of anyone else.
Yeah.
Well, and that was the only reason I give credence is because he's in at least, but it's almost like the artist in Cool World. Because the artist in Cool World, I don't even know if you see the artist. I know you see his hands and he's
Yeah.
doing the drawings, but like all of Cool World is happening in his drawings. Like that's the whole thing. And like this guy, if he's in a coma, there's nothing for him to actually be doing.
Yeah.
He just pops up to like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what of my characters are going on.
But see, the problem
He
is
created
that
Francisco. Why wouldn't he know Francisco?
if they expected that to be that way,
He doesn't know that side of him.
but that
or-
doesn't make any sense though. If they expected it to be that way, was the hospital the least realistic set?
Right.
If they're saying that that's
It
the
seems
one
the most
realistic
farcical.
point.
the
Yeah.
most- and like throughout the movie, not that I don't have an appreciation for cheesy bits, but it's like it degrades into cheesiness throughout the movie. It starts out seeming more
I'm
serious.
yes and no with that.
and
I think that's
then
just it's a darker
becomes
movie and
cheesier
it
and
becomes lighter
cheesier.
and lighter. And the sun keeps being out for longer. In the beginning of the movie, it's always dark. But then there's like a point where it starts becoming a little bit light and he's doing more things. And then
but it
it's
also
more, and then it's
becomes
more,
more
and then it's more.
farcical and less realistic.
Yeah. But I think that's just the whole movie. I think
Oh,
that
yeah,
people
true.
coming back from the dead is pretty farcical.
See, I feel like if we're gonna talk about the whole thing being someone's state of mind, then it would be more likely to be Francisco and the degradation of his
That everybody
sanity.
else is fake and he's the only real thing.
And like the detective becomes less and less real throughout the
Well,
thing.
not to
too.
mention
Absolutely.
that the detective literally walks off like a guardian angel style exit when he hands him the check and he goes, I found this check. This proves that you set this fire, but I'm not going to tell anybody. And then he
We've
walks
already
away
got
and he
the-
does the over the shoulder look like, okay, I'm gone now. And then
Now, does
walks
he do
away.
that prior to?
That's the last time that the detective
Okay,
No,
but that
because I
doesn't
thought
happen
the
in the
stairs
hospital.
thing
Yeah, the
happened.
stairs happens after that scene.
I think so.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah,
You're
and
right.
Because
even
that,
one.
and if you're talking about a character arc, in the first time we see the detective, he's like, "You're under arrest if you don't have an alibi," and like super hard ass. And then there's a slight change. I think it was your assistant. And then the next time he's like, "Oh, there's this thing happening," and then we see like the check is burned, right? And like, "Hey,
with his
I know you
signature.
did this." And then the last time we see it, he goes, "Oh, there's a madman loose. You've got a gun. Great, you can defend yourself."
Yeah, like he's literally so in
like
denial.
like
he's-
the exact opposite
Yeah.
like of that, and that's a wild ride for a character.
all the characters sort of do that. All the characters kind of become
Yeah.
that thing. Same with
Nagi
Franco, Nagi, all of them. Every character does that. Except for she, which you say she was unnamed, but she was named in the last one.
She wasn't.
It says, this
I
is
didn't
my
catch her
friend,
name.
such and such.
Doesn't say her name.
It does.
Mm-mm.
Sure it does.
It absolutely doesn't. And that's one of the recurring things because she hits a grave and the name is Lei, which is she. It just the whole prevalent thing is that she is unnamed because she is not one character. She is the she throughout the thing.
I just always took that as like comic book logic. Like there are multiple of the same character.
Yeah. But again, that goes back to like male fantasy or stuff like I know what I'm in love with. I'm in love with this one thing, and I'm going to find this one thing in whoever I'm with. I'm going to try to find this one
That's why he's
thing.
seeing her face on everyone else. Okay,
That's right.
That had confused me. All right.
And that's just an interpretation of that.
Yeah, because she even references the fact that she has no sisters, no family, no nothing. So those people aren't like even a relation to her. It's just a completely different person that looks exactly like her.
Yeah.
Probably had the same scary nipples.
I thought at first it was just like she had twins or something out there. I'm like, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah, but they reference it in the beginning when she first came to the grave. She was like, I have no other family, no sisters, no nothing like that.
So,
P.S. The grave. Did you notice that this is one of the cool things that they did in, like, low-key, which I was watching for other stuff in the movie to be like this, but the picture on the tombstone changes from this really lighthearted
oh, absolutely.
guy to, like, the sneering old
Yes.
hag.
Yeah.
That's
But like,
so
where is that? Where's the rest of that? Why didn't they do that more? Like, I'm sitting there watching everything now. Like, did that change? Did this change? What does this word on the wall mean? And there's nothing.
So there are little things like that though. In early scenes, we see an angel in the cemetery. Halfway through the thing, he shoots off one of the wings. Later, he shoots off the second wing, and at the last sequence we see of that, he's standing there, and the wings are behind him. So he's assumed that role, and that's kind of one of his arcs. Whereas, like Nagi is just good, he's just good, and then because he falls in love, he's willing to do something that he wouldn't normally do, right? Which taking her head and that kind of thing.
Putting it in the TV.
Isn't
just talking with it.
Yeah, isn't fundamentally good, which changes him a little bit. And then at the end, when he gets his head smashed in, he's like, I'm done with this shit. I'm done with being all this. So now I'm going to be this guy. And Francisco is so done with, I've done all this stuff. Maybe I should take Nagi's route and just like go with it. Just be good.
See, to
so that
me,
changes.
the Nagi arc with him is that Nagi is living in this quote-unquote small town, and all Cemetery Man can think is like, I gotta get out of here, and no matter, and every time he goes a little bit further, because he goes to the city, he goes to the main city, then he goes out, then he goes to this apartment complex, then he's driving further out of town, and every time he gets a little bit further away, he gets a little bit more bitter, a little bit more darker, and Nagi is sort of like, oh, I'm fine here. And as he goes away, he gets more nervous, and he comes back, and he's like, whatever. And then he goes away, and he comes back, and he's happy. He becomes more and more happy with his situation because he's dumb. So when they go all the way to the end of the fucking world, pain actually makes Nagi a new character, right?
Sure.
So Nagi can now go back to his home, and it's a completely new experience for him. But with Cemetery Man, he's like, I've been trying to escape this for so long. I've completely forgot that every fucking place is every fucking place, and it's your perception of that place that matters. So that's why he was like, yeah, because he was like, I should be like Nagi. If I was like Nagi, I wouldn't fucking care that I'm stuck in this town.
That's right.
And Nagi now has a whole new experience to go through, and Cemetery Man can like redesign himself and go through another experience.
Not to be wildly existential here, but like wherever you go, you're stuck there.
Yeah.
Not like you can't move, you can't travel. Not saying that you can go to Mars, but like you're stuck in existence. And like the thing that everybody's
you can never run away from yourself.
That's right. So everybody's trying to run away, or not everybody, but people who like have that desire, like I've got to get out of this thing.
Yeah, you are acting like the town is affecting you to be the person that you are, when it's more likely that you're affecting the town to be the town that it is.
That's right. Well, so you make your own happiness, you create your own world.
And I think that's what
agreed.
he was doing, especially considering the reference of she consistently changed her whole entire existence in this small town, but lived different lives. And when he gets to the end, he's like, shit, man, I should just redesign my existence and live a different thing, just like she's been doing this whole time.
That's a great point. Like he learned from both of those characters,
Yeah.
right? But even Franco changes, right? The detective changes. We talked about that. The mayor literally changes, you know.
Something we haven't mentioned yet. There were some great cinematic shots in this too.
Like my favorite was the returner or whatever. On the motorbike, they had the roots and different
The little computer thing in his eye that
yeah,
flickered
I've seen
and
that.
shit.
I loved that so much, and him rising out of the grave, like bursting out like that. That was fun.
Another point I wanted to say is I've recently heard this whole like story about how trees feed off the dead, and that's one of the few movies out there that have the whole connection between the roots like eating the dead or growing into the bodies. Most of the time you don't see that.
And one of the first times it really shows that is with She's husband awaking
because it follows the
and
root
coming
now.
out. Yeah.
But even before that, like every single zombie has some sort
has some
of
kind of piece, but the
root
first time it
or-
really gives you that particular imagery with it is then. But then it makes sense why each zombie you've seen has some kind of piece, like moss or roots or something growing
let's
out
also
of
talk
it,
about the
so
fact
it's-
that this girl teased him by like making him fucking put a dead body shroud in his mouth.
So
Yeah.
that particular scene recreates a famous piece of art by one of my favorite artists, Rene Magritte, who is famous for Son of War, which is the picture of the guy wearing the bowler hat and he has the apple in front of his face. That's Rene Magritte, but he has a piece called The Lovers, and The Lovers, there's two different versions of that, but they both have a sack over their head, and they're doing the kiss. Because she's wearing the veil, to get that, she gets that other piece and makes that. And when I saw that, like, I jumped off my seat. Like, that was one of the most exciting things, because to see one of my favorite artist paintings rendered, or visualized in real life, it was so perfectly done.
Which almost makes it even more hilarious that Matt's initial reaction is to think about how sanitary it isn't.
Gross.
Because Matt is so the most sanitary of us.
Well,
But it was just like...
It's like she just put picked the shroud off of a rotting body laying in filthy
and yet
fucking
somehow it still
shite
looks
water.
to be the cleanest thing in the place.
And then she's like, put this in your mouth to make love to me.
so
Like, you fucking
I
bitch.
think
I got trichinosis.
you say that like she. Oh my god. You got trigonometry. You say that she seduced him that way. I would contend that he seduced her by going, "Hey, before you leave, would you like to go to my bone room?"
My ossuary. Look at my ossuary.
it.
And then
Look,
she
I'm not trying
turns
to.
her on.
I'm
She
not
gets
trying
so
to
fucking
say
horny.
that he didn't like mastermind that. Like he's
Yeah.
like, fucking finally
I have
found something.
bones.
But like again, that's why I have a big disconnect with the romanticized part of this movie, is because none of that was romantic. It was frat boy tactics.
Yeah.
He was like, bro, I'm like a biologist, dude. I read books. No, I got an ossuary. You're a goth girl. You probably like that. Like, it's such an assumptual piece. It's such a piece of shit move. And then she goes in there and she's like, oh, fuck me. You got me. What the fuck? Is there
Because she
roofies in this
then
water?
immediately chooses to play up to the
And then the
stereotype
skeletons are
of
like,
how she's
yo,
been
bro,
cast.
let me get a piece too.
Ripping her
And it's
clothes
like,
off.
no, man, this
Yeah.
is my piece, bro.
I don't disagree with that, but that's where I teeter on the edge of which way I feel, because parts of this I feel like are like the male fantasy of like heavy metal, where it's like, this is how we visualize like romance and sex and guns and boobs and all this stuff. But like the other part of that is like, so I'm like, that's bad. But like the other part of that is like, there can be romance that way. There can be people who have these feelings and interact this way and have connections through these things. That's totally viable.
Yeah, and all those people die. Like every person in those relationships dies.
well, not only that, but every person always dies.
It's true.
I didn't know if
It's true. It's
if you-
bullshit.
that's what we need to be protesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
All I'm saying is that that's a fucking toxic way to start a relationship by lying about anything you give a fuck about. Like, I can't tell you how many people back in Tuscaloosa that we knew that were kind of like school people that were dating girls that they wouldn't even tell them what kind of stuff they did with their friends, and it was like, no, that she doesn't like this, but well, why are you with a person that doesn't like the shit you like? And if you lie about it, then you're really screwing yourself, because now you gotta like pretend like you like that stuff. Why do that? Like, I've always felt like that wasn't romantic.
Agreed.
That was manipulative.
Yeah.
'cause
No,
it is.
I agree with that. My point was more like that connections can happen.
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
was all. Guys, we're going to take a break, quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of our favorite parts of the film and our final thoughts on Della Morte.
And maybe some ratings.
Della More. All right, guys, we're here. We have just done a review with the Good Stuff's Kettle Corn Emporium. This is one of our favorite popcorns that's come out.
This popcorn is amazing.
Phenomenal.
Oh my god, I can't
Yes.
stop eating it.
How many flavors do they have now?
Like 68?
I've lost
I
count.
think.
68. And they have literally a kettle corn for almost every flavor I could possibly imagine at this point. Even I think I've tasted some licked unicorn.
A licked unicorn.
For everybody, even if you're picky.
Even
Yes.
if you're picky.
This company supports the other haunt actors and helps
Yes.
promote those and gives them an avenue for that. And we've seen a lot of our rotten friends have their own corn
Yes.
flavors.
Yes.
Such a beautiful thing. I love
And
it.
the fact that Good Stuff is bringing together the haunt community, it can't be anything more rotten and more on par with what we want to be.
Absolutely.
And this
beautiful.
damn kettle corn is fucking amazing.
It absolutely
I can't
is.
stop eating this.
I'm gonna turn into a kettle corn.
Guys, check out www.kettlecornemporium.com and get yourself some of this. Is absolutely phenomenal.
Get you some of this.
And we're back. Did you guys miss us?
Nope.
No.
Well, I'm still standing, so somebody missed me.
Well, we'll keep practicing. I do want to talk about the fact that this particular film stands out to me. Now, it has become kind of an underground cult classic, but it stands out to me because of, I can't tell you another truly art house film that is also a campy zombie horror film.
Agreed.
True.
I don't know anything that compares to it. The blood in it is good.
Yeah.
It's not the greatest, but the zombies, I am convinced that that's a zombie. That's
Some of the makeup was incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
the sets were beautiful.
They were.
The people were beautiful.
Dude, the cemetery so reminds me of the cemetery from Dead Alive. It even has the thing with the hand that he spikes
Yeah.
the punk onto.
Yeah. So special effects are beautiful. The sets are beautiful. The people are just gorgeous. I know that Rupert Everett is half naked in half this movie, but I don't have a problem with that. Anna Fauci is
Nipples
half
out.
and part of this film, and I have no problem with that. I think she's gorgeous. We didn't get to see Nagi half naked, and I'm okay with that. So the disappointing.
I think it's interesting that this movie deals with a fucking hot topic button of is it pedophilia if your brain is the age of the same person that you're interested in?
Yeah,
because
Nagi and the
it
mayor's
does.
daughter.
Like, they reference that Nagi is like a year older than Cemetery Man, and that the mayor's daughter is only like 15, but I guess she's dead now, so.
Does it count?
Yeah, it's a weird topic. I guess the way that the film handles it in such a like non-menacing.
Yeah, it doesn't really
like-
go into it, and it
Yeah.
keeps Nagi at a very low level. But the one thing about this film that stands out to me, And I didn't realize that Brandy hadn't seen this film until the last watching, but she damn well knows the song because
You've
to
been
me,
whistling it forever.
that song just gets stuck in your head. That's the song that we opened this episode with, and because everybody's either whistling it, playing it on a electric violin made from coffins. I'm not exactly sure what that is.
So wild.
Can we reference the point that I'm still not sure how they made the head move behind Nagi like that?
When
I'm not
he was
exactly
playing
sure.
The violin.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
exactly sure how they pulled that off.
That's a Roomba.
No.
That is a
94. 94.
Yeah. No, that's a remote controlled car with a mannequin head stuck into it.
I don't think so. The way it moves like it's a string from the sky.
Yeah, exactly. It does, but you don't see it, or like a string drug
It's
along
just,
the
if,
ground.
I've watched that
maybe.
scene a couple of times to I wonder how they pulled that one off. And I
'Cause it's
still
got
can't.
a jerkiness to it.
It wouldn't have been able
goes
to
off in
move
a
on the
different
ground
direction.
like it did with something on the ground.
I will say that is that a stagnant shot or is that a moving shot?
Stagnant.
So it's a
Yeah.
stagnant shot.
So it could be overshot.
It could be stop motion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or it could just be like overshot and cropped out. It was 94.
Absolutely.
They were doing that anyways.
Yeah. So all practical effects, no CGI in this film. The other one that I kept looking at, I don't exactly know how that's being done, is the fireflies, which were never
the
kind of
will-o'-the-wisp.
explained because where a stick would need to be, because we're thinking it's a stick with a cotton ball or whatever.
Yeah, and they're
but
just fishing line.
but that would burn.
What fireflies?
They're like
The
blue
will-o'-wisp.
balls.
They call
Oh,
them.
those were roasted marshmallows.
That's what I
Blue
thought.
Flame.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they call them. What does he call them? Luminous
no.
something luminous.
Ignis
Ignis
Bacchus,
luminous.
or Ignis Bacchus. Or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah,
that.
which basically translates in. It's just another saying of will-o'-wisp. What
Yeah.
we call the will-o'-wisp.
Thought they were supposed to be like marsh lights or something in that word.
Well,
Yeah,
it-
that's the same.
Yeah, because will-o'-wisp is an old creature that was a light out in the middle of the woods that would
draw
you'd think you were going
Okay.
toward society, but you get further and further lost in the woods, following the lights in the woods, and that's what they call a will-o'-wisp.
It's the deep sea angler of the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I thought were they're campy, they're cheesy, but they also work.
Yeah.
But what's weird is we see a blue version of them one time, and then we see a yellow version of one
Yeah.
time, and then we never ever see them
again, yeah.
before or after.
Yep.
So it's just kind of an interesting, hey, let's just throw this in there. But it still works for me.
Well, to
Well,
me,
it
there was a
also-
lot of that was like, hey, let's just throw in this picture change, and
But,
hey, let's just
okay,
throw in
Yeah.
Nagi being a genius. Hey, let's just throw in.
Go back to the inconsistencies too, and the fact that things seem out of order at
Yeah.
different times. It feels like they cut a lot of things out of this.
Yeah.
That would make it make more sense.
I can see that.
But
And
going
then
from
reorder
not
things.
having the scar for the second she story and having the scar for the third she story
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
So that you brought up Nagi being a genius. In the opinion piece that I had read, we were talking about it all being Franco and this being light and dark. Nagi had an understanding of death and is to terms with death. He can cope with death. Francisco has not. He's still on his journey. So the puzzle of the skull shows Nagi's like, hey, I understand death. I'm uncomfortable with it. I put the skull together. Whereas Francisco's like, man, you'll never figure that out. It's way too hard
It's
because
the
he's on the
most-
journey.
You'd have to be the smartest person, or this is the hardest thing in the world to do.
Yeah.
Is deal with death.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could
Yeah.
say, yeah.
So that was an interesting point, and I hadn't thought about that. It was kind of neat that you see that Nagi has made these things, like
Yeah.
the violin. You see that he throws the skull together, and then he takes it apart, so he doesn't want to show off because he doesn't. He has
need
no
that.
need for that.
Yeah.
It was just a curious thing
He
for
doesn't
him.
need acknowledgement for the stuff that he does. or
Well,
the stuff
plus
that he's
Nagi
interested
actually
in.
finds love through just being himself and not
and
worrying
being
about
accepting
any of that
of
stuff. Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, so anyways, let's get to our person by person.
But before we do, I just do want to mention one scene that was super fun for me. I loved the fact that he has a person die, they come back. A person die, come back. A couple people die, they come back. That's fine. And then we had the scene with the mayor's daughter. She takes off on a motorcycle. There's a whole motorcycle gang, and they run into a school bus full of Boy Scouts, and there's just a procession of people piling into the cemetery. And he's like, "Oh, there's going to be more work." And he's like, "Oh, more
Gotta get
than
some
you
bullets.
know."
Yeah.
And this film had so many great quotes like that. You can't kill me. I'm the mayor.
Yeah.
X. That's a great line. I wrote a bunch of those down, and they're on the phone that I can't access. So yeah, let's go into what some of our favorite parts of the film is.
Well, let's do our individual, like, we think this, and this is what our rating is.
Oh, okay, yeah, cool.
So, who do you want to start with? You started with me last time.
Brandy, would you like to start?
No.
Heard? No, heard. Good. Graham, would you like to start?
Sure.
Because if you also said no, this was going to be super awkward. All right.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hello.
It's been on. We're recording this all time.
Yeah, this is a
No.
podcast.
Sorry, guys.
I thought you stopped it. Some of my favorite scenes were the first one was where Nagi is in the mayor's daughter's presence, and he gets uncontrollably filled with anxiety and everything, and he's drooling all over the place, and he vomits on her, and nobody seems to give a shit.
Right.
Nobody. I fucking love that. And then the other one was the scene shot from inside the grave where the old man had died, and you can see where he's fiddling, like trying to get out, and he climbs, he's like, his hands going up, and I love that scene. That shot was really fun.
I did really like that
Yeah.
shot. I also really liked the shot where it zoomed out from the cemetery to show him sitting talking on the phone, and like these risen dead, the returners, like swarming from all different directions, and he's just so blasé
Yes.
about
Well,
it.
let's keep with a sort of a ABC and do your rating on it.
Okay, for this, my rating would probably be a 5 because I didn't put the pieces together of whatever there was until after the movie, and it still left me confused as to what was going on.
I very much agree with that. My rating is also a 5. I very much enjoyed it. There were many pieces of this that I enjoyed. It was a fun watch, but the inconsistencies and the confusion just really kept taking me out of it. Like this
I do
does
love
not make
how
sense.
different
Why
it was
this?
and how pretty in a lot of aspects
Yes.
it was. And seeing the Grim Reaper come up and everything, like that was the Grim Reaper, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed like he was being sarcastic, like if you don't like killing or whatever or something, then go ahead and just kill all the living.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
kill the
And-
dead? Kill the
yeah.
living. Yeah. But I did very much enjoy it. But the inconsistencies and confusion, I give it a 5 as well.
I really enjoyed this movie. I've seen it multiple times. Scott introduced me to it way back in the day. Me personally, I'm also going to give it a 5. I would have given it a 4 if it didn't have such rewatchability to it. But for me, it's missing that it's missing the underscore explanation. Like, yeah, you can figure out whatever you want to, but it seems like
It's
it
missing
was
that dawning moment.
well,
of,
not even that. It's like the background stuff, like I said about the picture changing. Like, if there was more of that shit, if there was more, like, of a reference to this is part 1, this is part 2, and it was more defined, but it seemed like he had a great idea and didn't think about, like, well, just like us, what he was actually capturing on film and what could lead that idea into that next thing. But I do think that this is very comparable to movies that are based on like an emotion, and then that emotion is turned into horror, like Unshin Angelou, like movies like that, like It Follows or The Babadook, that are really about something, not what you think they're about at all, but they never really come out and say what it is. But if you pay attention to the metaphors of it, you pick up on the fact that this movie is definitely about coming to terms with dealing with death.
Sure, absolutely. For me, before I watched it this time, I would have said 10. 10, it's 10.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite films. I'm going to go with an 8. So, and the reason I want to give it so high a rating is because I want you guys listening to know that I highly recommend at least one viewing of this film. It is a cinematic, in my opinion, a cinematic masterpiece from a visual standpoint. The film is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh, yes, we all recommend a watch on
yeah.
this one as well.
Absolutely.
I would say it's a cinematic oddity, and that it's definitely a watchable cinematic oddity. There have been cinematic oddities that are just like, oh, this is just weird, I can't deal with it.
And even with everything we've spoiled for you, you still will not get what you expect to
Like,
see.
imagine
from this movie. It
Brazil,
will be
but
something
not
different.
nearly as what the fuck is going on here.
Yeah, this isn't Begotten.
Yeah, it's not so hard to follow. It's still, like, on a face level is an ABCD plot.
Yeah.
But it's just, there are so many other things going on in it that it seems like very different movies connected together.
I do think like it should be watching. Now, Michel Suave, he the director of the film. This film, an alternate title for this film was Demons 95. He had done a film called Demons 3 and Demons 4. He has a huge catalog. He studied under Dario Argento, studied under Lucio Fulci. Like, this guy is a Italian director for Italian directors. Like, he is this thing, which makes it kind of sad because this was kind of his pinnacle. Beyond that, we haven't seen films of his that we recommend as highly as we recommend this film from 1995. But it stands alone as one of my favorite films and artistically very inspirational. And while I made the reference to Rene Magritte, the lovers in that one scene, there are other scenes in there that reference famous pieces of art that I just didn't pick up, and I hate
like
that.
the pool where she's looking down at him with the moonlight, and he's looking down in the pool.
Astonishing shot,
Right.
Just a fantastic, like, jaw-droppingly gorgeous. If it was just a photograph, I would look at that for longer than 1 minute.
So our average this time was 5.75.
It's not bad. That's not bad.
bad.
I don't know how that compares to Hereditary, but
I think Hereditary.
I think we were like 5.2 for that. Does that sound right?
Seems about right.
Because
Because again, these are great movies to watch. They have this great kind of underscore story going on. They're very visually beautiful, but in the end, it seems like it. Mainly why these get low scores are because they're not
5.7 was our average from Hereditary. This was 5.75, so it just.
But we also had an extra
extra
number
person
in there, so.
So the other thing about this film that was kind of an important part. Oh, with Hereditary and this one, you don't read reviews and you don't have this all spoiled for you before you go into this film, you don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And I love films that don't. I hate watching a detective mystery and then I know the answer in the first few minutes.
Yeah.
Knives Out.
Knives Out bothered me so bad because I wanted a clue.
There was a clue in every scene of that movie.
No, I wanted a film clue.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. I wanted to clue the movie where I don't know who done it. And
No, I'm talking about the fact that the film, accidentally left a clue for who the killer was for the whole movie because of the iPhone thing.
Yeah. So, lots of fun. I have some quotes written down that I wanted to read that I just think were kind of awesome. Because it's fun. We haven't talked a lot about this, but this movie is funny.
It is.
And it's a kind of I don't want to say it's dry British humor. That's not exactly what it is. It's definitely not American humor.
It would have to be Italian humor.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
All of the people involved with it are Italian.
Yeah.
It's set in northern Italy. I mean,
It is definitely dry though. I know every bump in this road hits a bump. There's one.
there's one.
That's such a that's almost a dad
laughed
joke.
at
Like
that.
I love that.
Well, when he was like, I know every bump in this road, and he hits it, and he's like, yeah, and he's like, there's one.
Yeah.
It was a rock, though. And
Yeah.
it wasn't a bump, it was a rock.
Yeah, but it's a bump. So he's like, oh, there's a bump. I love this line. He says to Franco, "You looked a lot better last time we spoke on the phone."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a great line, man. I love that so
That is
much.
good.
And we used to quote this all the time. He's only eating me. Mind your business.
Yeah.
I should be eaten by whoever I please.
Whoever I please.
It's her right to be eaten.
That is like there's so much of this that was embraced by like the goth community and emo community, but like he's only eating me. I could, be eaten by whoever please. That's so that. You know what I'm saying? That I don't know why Hot Topic doesn't have that on every fucking thing. You know, I'd give my life to be dead.
Yeah.
I love that one.
It's so good. And then I had written down the lyrics for the Boy Scout troop song.
But they're just clacking their teeth.
Not that song?
I like that one.
Yeah,
That's a good song.
that is great. Well, so that scene kind of bothered me because there's like one that's clacking his teeth and the other two aren't. And then in the next shot, there's like two that's clacking their teeth.
Dude.
And you're like, do the Boy Scouts clack their teeth or do they not clack their teeth? Like, this is super important.
There are so many things like that where it's like, dude, if you would have kept with it, if you would have held on to that, that would be a badass thing to be like, did you notice that all the Boy Scouts did this thing? But they did. Did you notice that the scar wasn't there in these particular scenes? But that's not how that works.
Yeah. So, we liked it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely
It was
watch
fun.
that movie. So, the next movie we have on the docket is another romantic thriller.
Yeah.
It is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I promise you we're going away from romantic movies. Oh. We'll only let Scott throw his in.
Wait, what was yours?
Itchy.
Total romance film.
Okay, bromance.
Not even.
Yes.
That's like a BDSM, like,
but
romance story.
Okay, but still. It's about a guy who's like horny for this other dude.
That doesn't change romance,
you'll
bro.
find out when we get to that one.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one,
That
guys.
one will be a super fun one. Yeah, actually, I'm hoping that if both Grim and Carrie watch it to see how well you guys deal with subtitles, because you do not want to watch that movie dubbed.
I don't mind subtitles.
Cool. We watch a lot of subtitle shit, so it's like second nature for us to just be like, oh, it's got subtitles. I didn't even think about it.
So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Cemetery Man is the U.S. title, so if you are in the U.S. looking for this film, it is hard to find.
Yes.
There are Blu-rays of it out there. We watched a fairly high-quality content.
We did. We watched it full quality on the site.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It can be found.
Yeah, it can be found. But if you want it, I would highly recommend seeking this one out.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the movie poster that it puts up wherever you look for it. I wish it was the actual, like, live action poster, not the green and red and white sort of.
Oh, I'm not sure I'm familiar with that one. No, the actual U.S. movie poster.
Yeah, that looks more like the movie posters that were coming out in the 90s.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks so much. You guys stay rotten.
Stay rotten, guys.
Stay rotten.
And then I didn't have this loaded where I could hit the
Okay,
end.
and
Okay.
stay rotten.
Stay rotten.
Okay, guys. Join us next time for another episode of Rotten Mournings.